welcome to our weekly update here on Facebook Live. I wasn't with you last week, but we were there at CPAC, and I hope you joined our Facebook Live streaming of CPAC last week. I spoke on the stage at CPAC. We had great interviews from our booth there, so track it in our feed, in our Facebook Live feed or our Facebook video feed at facebook.com/Judicial Watch, and I think we have a lot of the material also up on our YouTube. But first things first, let's talk about the absolute insanity related to the so-called Russia interference in our elections. In my view, there's no there there. They've taken out yet another Trump appointee, the Attorney General of the United States, Jeff Sessions, by suggesting because he met with an ambassador from Russia in his capacity as a senator that he did something wrong. What was wrong was the fact that the Obama administration used the pretext of their fanciful story that the Russians were somehow colluding with the Trump people to influence the elections. They used that as a pretext to wiretap the Trump people. They targeted the Trump organization, his business. They were targeting, obviously, the Russian ambassador, but when they were somehow targeting Attorney General Sessions and also General Flynn, who's no longer in the White House. So now Sessions went and was asked, he wasn't actually asked about it before the Senate by Senator Al Franken, but his answer left some people scratching their head when he suggested that he didn't meet with the ambassador. His response is, look, the question was about communications between the campaign and the Russians, and he wasn't aware of any. And he said his communications with the ambassador, his meeting with the ambassador, wasn't about the campaign, and that wasn't in his head when he answered. You know, it sounds like a reasonable explanation, but to be fair to the other side, they're skeptical of the explanation, so there'll have to be some vetting of that answer and some further investigation. But that will probably be a quick investigation if it's competently done or fairly done, which is a big if. So, of course, the left wing of the establishment here in Washington, D.C. immediately called on Jeff Sessions to resign because of some vague answer he gave to an ambiguous question. And now, obviously, that's completely over the top. You know, I was thinking back, I don't think I was able to convince anybody in the Senate or the House of any significant note. I'm sure there were a few. Certainly no one in the Republican leadership ever asked Eric Holder to resign. No one ever asked Eric Holder to resign. And I pushed, but no one ever asked on him to resign. But it just shows you how crazed the anti-Trump opposition is. And then the question is about Sessions recusing himself from the Trump-Russia investigation. So I don't know what investigation's going on. I see this as the unicorn theory of the election. These vague allegations of Russian interference in the election in conclusion with the Trump people, not much there. There's nothing illegal about meetings. There's no information suggesting that meetings were improper. Yet the Obama people are using this as an effort to dislodge the president from office. And they're willing to break the law to do so by leaking classified material, the nature of which relates to secure communications we are monitoring with the Russians, both here and abroad, and by targeting illicitly individuals caught up in those eavesdropping efforts by the Obama gang. So that's the scandal. The scandal is the Obama gang using the pretext of the Russia interference in our elections, and it's a pretext because there's no there there, to investigate Donald Trump's team. And Sessions is a victim of those crimes. So yeah, he should recuse himself from any criminal investigation of the crimes of which he's a victim. But obviously he went broader because he's more ethical than the prior attorney generals and recused himself broadly from any Russia-connected investigation because it might relate to the Trump campaign. But that's the situation. Now everyone's calling on an investigation, a nonpartisan investigation. Now if Congress does an investigation, we know how that's going to work out. And however distracting and ridiculous it is, it's going to be incompetent and won't recover much. But you can trust Judicial Watch to do an investigation because we are investigating the illegal leaks. We're investigating this independent of the parties, independent of anyone, to figure out what went on. and we have about a dozen Freedom of Information Act requests pending. Next week we'll be suing on a few of them. So once again, your Judicial Watch will be in the lead in pursuing these investigations related to the illegal leaks targeting Donald Trump and the illicit wiretapping of his people. This is pretty dangerous stuff that we've run into here. We had the IRS being abused by the Obama administration. Now it looks like the whole national security establishment was misused by the Obama administration to target its political enemies, namely Donald Trump and his team. And we're going to aim to uncover the details behind that. Don't be distracted by the noise about Russia interference on our elections. There's not much there. There were hacks maybe tied to the Russians that need to be investigated. That's true. But beyond that, it's just smoke and mirrors. And as I said, it's the unicorn theory of the election. We have another important outrage to highlight. There's a 74-year-old, I may have talked about this, there's a 74-year-old veteran, Robert Rosebrock, that we're representing, who is facing federal charges for displaying two 4x6-inch American flags above a Veteran Affairs fence on Memorial Day last year. You heard it right. And you know what a 4x6 flag looks like? This is a 4x6 flag. He posted two of these on a fence, and he's being prosecuted by the Veterans Affairs Department, well, namely the Justice Department, I guess, who's doing it in collusion with the VA. And why is he being prosecuted? Well, I don't know why. There's no legal reason for pursuing him because our lawyers have filed a series of motions highlighting the fact that he didn't get his Fifth Amendment rights warning. He had First Amendment rights to posting the flag, and it was a selective and vindictive prosecution. So Rosebrock got on the VA's radar screen because out in Los Angeles there's a giant facility that's supposed to be used on behalf of veterans. Instead, it's being used for UCLA's baseball team, athletic complex at a nearby prep school, a golf course, laundry facilities for a nearby Marriott, storage and maintenance facilities for 20th Century Fox, and the Brentwood Theater, so it's in a really Tony part of LA, soccer practice and match fields for a private girls soccer club, a dog park, and a farmer's market. None of which are particularly offensive, only that it was deeded to the federal government for the specific purpose of caring for disabled veterans. And this is what your government's doing. So you have a veteran who is consistently protesting every Sunday with his friends about the misuse of these facilities, and on Memorial Day, he posts two small flags on the gate, and they try to throw him in jail. And we are defending him in federal court right now. So you might want to ask your elected representatives and the Trump administration why this is being allowed to proceed. We've been trying to highlight this issue. It's been covered by Fox News. It's covered on the internet. But go ahead and look it up. It's Robert L. Rosebrock. I have a picture here. You're not going to be able to see it. Well, actually, I'm going to show you the picture because can you see the flags? Can you see the flags? Of course you can't see the flags. That's the whole point. And by the way, he's posted on this same fence, he's posted full-size flags, 30 of them, with no prosecution. So clearly they're tired of him at the VA for holding them, because he's holding them accountable under the First Amendment, and he's being prosecuted because of that. So this is, this isn't our typical case, but it is a corruption story, and we're proud to be able to represent this veteran. And it shows you that Judicial Watch is always on the lookout for violations of law by the government and abuses by the government. And we all know about the Veterans Affairs scandals. And folks like Robert Rosebrock are highlighting other failures by the VA, and he's facing jail over it. And I have the feeling if President Trump knew about this directly, he'd be outraged. So get the word out, because he's facing trial later this month. We're not over yet. We've got more going on. The Clinton email scandal. We're in the middle of it still. Next Tuesday, there's another federal court hearing And we're going to be talking about the emails of Clinton aide Yuma Abedin. Remember, those were found on the laptop of her husband, Anthony Weiner. And, of course, we want also emails that the FBI is sitting on, or the FBI has, where it sent to the State Department, the emails that were recovered from Hillary Clinton's deleted emails. Remember the ones she destroyed rather than turn over? We're still waiting for those, and the government, as under the Obama administration, told us we should wait 4 to 5 years to get them all. And obviously that's not acceptable, and unfortunately some of the courts have signed on to that. But this is an opportunity for the Trump administration to turn the page and go into a new era on transparency and accelerate the release of these records. Unfortunately, because the establishment here in Washington refuses to let Trump's appointees get into office, namely his cabinet officials, let alone his sub-cabinet officials, and I don't think President Trump has even nominated many of them. The agencies are staffed by just a few political appointees or representatives of the president, and the rest of it is that alt government I've been telling you about, the government that hates Trump, that's partisan and opposed to him, or just philosophically opposed to him, or could be, as I say, Republicans who don't like him. And so as a result, they're battling the appointees, refusing to pursue things on behalf of President Trump and obstructing those policies. So this is a big deal. So Judicial Watch is going to be watching, obviously, the Trump administration, but also this alt government that's in place designed to oppose him and to turn him from office, as we see with the Russia leak scandal. That's the scandal, by the way. It's the Russia leak scandal. It's not the Russia election scandal. So a lot, I know I covered a lot, and just one more other case related to the way our military treats those in service. We just sued the Defense Department for the use, documents about the illicit use of opiates by our personnel in Afghanistan. We suspect it's a big problem, and as you know, the military sometimes doesn't handle personnel problems and health problems of personnel as well as they should. And what's outrageous is they refuse to give us any records, even though they have the records. Even worse, they've previously given records to us about this issue. But now they decide they don't want to turn over any records to us. And, you know, why am I suspicious of this, or why are we suspicious of it? Because in Afghanistan, under the Obama administration, it's been a disaster in terms of curtailing the illegal opium trade there. According to the numbers we have, opium production rose 43% in Afghanistan last year. So think of all the blood and treasure we spent trying to defend our homeland in Afghanistan, and you can guess where that drug trade, what that drug trade fuels. It fuels our opposition. And obviously, to the degree it impacts our service members there, we need to know about it so we can understand the scope of the problem and take measures to help those who are facing the problems so that we have the resources allocated appropriately. But obviously the U.S. Army isn't interested in telling you the truth about it. That's why we're in federal court against it. I mean, this shows you that everyone thinks with President Obama there's nothing to do in terms of pursuing government transparency. Well, there's a lot to do because corruption hasn't ended with the Obama administration. Frankly, President Obama hasn't even left Washington, D.C., but the idea of the ethic that the government doesn't want to tell you what it's up to continues. And we hope that President Trump finally comes to power, I say that jokingly, and begins a transparency revolution. Because if he doesn't, it's going to be a long 4 years. And we're going to sue to get access to the information if he and his people don't want to turn the material over. My guess is he'll be better on this than Obama, but we'll see. And certainly he promised to be better, and we're going to hold him to that promise. So a lot going on. We're on top of the illegal Russia leaks. We're defending that veteran in Los Angeles. The 74-year-old man is facing federal jail time simply for posting 2 flags and taking a picture of someone being arrested. And then we have this new lawsuit over opiate use by our military in Afghanistan, basic information the military doesn't want you to know about. And then, of course, there's more Clinton emails. And the scandal for that continues and will be in court again next week. So I'll give you a report on that hearing next week, let you know what's happening. And in the meantime, have a great weekend, and appreciate you joining us here on Facebook Live.